Ladies and gentlemen, the topic of my research is new designs for electronic dictionaries. Now, lexicography is not something that you can eat or be eaten by, and lexicographers don't work in a hospital. Lexicography is the science of dictionary compilation, principles and practice underlying the dictionary. Now, a dictionary can be compared to a radio. It's easy to use a radio. You just turn the knob to hear the music, nothing to it. But if you open the back cover of a radio, then suddenly you see a different world. Complicated electronic circuits, transistors, capacitors, etc. And it's the same with a dictionary. The theory and practice underlying a dictionary is fairly comprehensive and fairly pragmatic. Now, paper dictionaries have been improved through centuries to, one could say, a level of perfection. One could hardly do any more to put more information in a dictionary. If you increase the font size even more, then you'll need a magnifying glass to read the dictionary. Or if you try to add more pages to the dictionary, you will have to move it around with a wheelbarrow. If you try to make the pages even thinner, you'll be able to read back-to-back pages 2 at a time. Then came the era of the electronic dictionary. In fact, the era of the computer. And suddenly, the computer with a lot of new characteristics, new features that one could use in a dictionary. And there were great expectations of how this new medium would revolutionize the industry. That unfortunately didn't happen. Publishers tend just to put the content of their paper dictionaries on computer without actually utilizing all these magnificent, wonderful new electronic features. Maybe they sugar-coated it a little bit with search functions. Otherwise, the same old paper dictionary, just on computer. The one exception, which could be a good example of clear electronic feature, a good electronic feature, is pronunciation guidance in electronic dictionaries. In paper dictionaries, you had the dilemma of trying to guide the user in terms of pronunciation by respelling of words or phonetic orthographies. The IPA, for example, hoping that these users would know the phonetic orthography. But otherwise, no specific revolutionary new features. In African languages, the situation goes one step further, namely that there are certain lexicographic issues, problems if you want, that cannot be solved in paper dictionary dimension, that can only be solved in electronic dictionaries. A good example is a complicated words in isiZulu, for example, wayesezofika. Now, to look up this word, you have to know the stem before you can look it up. So you have to know that within this word, figa is the stem in order to look it up. But by the time that you know that you should look wayesezofika up under figa, if you have that level of knowledge, the user might not even have to use the dictionary. A next critical consideration is the ever-increasing amount of knowledge on the World Wide Web, the internet. And this in itself brings a threat to dictionaries and dictionary compilers. We run the risk that users will no longer use dictionaries for the information they want. If they want to know the meaning of a word, they will simply Google it and find the explanation. What dictionary compilers need to do to make themselves relevant is to make or to encourage or to have by choice dictionary users still to depart from the electronic dictionary, but then link to the information that you get in the typical electronic entry, corpora and information from the web in ways to add additional information for the user. And that is the concept of linking dictionary and corpora, which is one of the lines that we focus on in our research. The final dimension that we are exploring is to lead the user much more directly to the information that he or she is looking for. That is the case especially for complicated structures. Let me give you an example. Let's take the kinship system, kinship terminology. Let's start with English. Kinship terminology, just a family tree. Me, my wife, my father, mother, uncle and aunt, all their brothers and sisters and their children. In English, one could say that this is of reasonable complexity. You can spend an hour and study the kinship system of English, and then you will be able to find the terms you are looking for. However, in African languages, the system is about 10 times more complex due to numerous specific terms for these relatives depending on their relation, depending on their age and the gender. So, what we are working with is to find ways of presenting a direct route to the data. If you have a week to spare, you can sit down and study the entire kinship or family tree system of an African language. And then you will eventually know what the term is that you are looking for. But in our new direct system, we develop an approach called a decision tree strategy, which shows you shortcuts directly from where you are and from where you want to be. A typical example, if I want to refer in Sepedi to one of my specific aunts, then I'm presented with a decision tree where I do about 4 basic clicks in guiding me directly to the data. And it's interesting to know that I even have to start with a basic thing like, am I a boy or a girl? So that's the first choice that you make. And if you don't know, of course, you just look in your ID book. So you choose, I'm a boy. And then the next question, do you want to address the person or do you want to speak about the person? That's your second choice. So I choose address the person. And then the next level, a decision choice between, is this a relation of your father or your mother? So I choose father. And another level, is this person younger or older than your father, etc. So what does it mean? Through the process of a decision tree, the user is guided directly to the answer. And this approach is currently acknowledged as one of the leading trends in the future of electronic dictionaries.